Hello and welcome back. I am going to be talking with you today about whenever you factor trinomials in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, what kind of patterns that we can see from the original expression to its factored form. If you can recognize these patterns, it does help you to double check that your answer is correct, and it can also help you to factor them a little bit more efficiently. Okay, so I have 4 examples here, and each of these examples are unique because of the types of signs that you see in the problems. So in the first example, you can see that they're both plus signs. In the second example here, you can see that they're both minus signs. And then in the third example, one's a minus, one's a plus. And then in the fourth example, one's a plus and one's a minus. So I'll talk about what those patterns mean. I'm going to go ahead and put the answers here, but before I do that, if you would like to try these on your own before I put the answers, this would be a good time to pause the video and try them on your own. Otherwise, you can continue with the video and just see what the answers are. Okay, so here are my answers for each of the problems. So you want to take a moment and check your answers. Remember, if you had any trouble trying to figure out different ways to multiply to 72, you can always grab yourself a calculator. Normally in class, I would also recommend if you don't have a calculator, a multiplication chart also can be helpful. So don't feel like you have to have all the multiplication facts in your head. So if you're unsure, get out a calculator and see which different ways to multiply these numbers if you can't remember them. Okay, so let's talk about the patterns that we see here, okay? A couple patterns that we see is if this last term is positive. So if the last term is positive, something that you will notice is that the signs in both of the parentheses is the same. So if the last term is positive, the sign in the parentheses are the same. Now, obviously, I am sort of shorthanding this, but it's basically the pattern that we can see. Another pattern that we can see is if both of the terms in the trinomial are positive, then you're going to have positive signs in your parentheses. So in order to get positive numbers, you need to have positive numbers, right? So if we have all positive signs, everything's going to be positive. All plus signs, then we know that the factors have plus signs. Okay. Another thing to recognize is if they are both, if the last term is plus signs, you know that the terms, the factors have to have the same sign. So if the last term is a plus but the middle term is a minus, you know that both of the signs are going to be minus. So that's something else to recognize. So if you have something in the form of like x squared minus bx plus c, if that's the pattern that you see, then you know it's going to be something where both of the parentheses have a minus sign. Okay, so just some patterns that you will see there. Okay, the patterns that we can recognize when we get to this second column of problems, I can move it over. Okay, so the second column of problems, what you'll notice in these problems is that the last term is negative. So when the last term is negative, so if the last term is negative, then what you're going to end up with in the factors, the signs are going to be opposite. 1 meaning 1 plus 1 minus, right? So you can see when the last term was a minus sign in both of these instances, I have one of the factors has a minus and one has a plus. One of the factors has a minus, one of them has a plus. So that's another pattern that we can see, okay? Specifically to this example up above, when both of the signs are negative, okay, something to realize is that if the last term is negative, they have to be opposite. If the middle term is negative as well, then what you will see here is that the bigger of these two values ends up being negative. So that's another pattern to see. And then down here, with the last term being negative, notice that the middle term, that's the one we're trying to find the sum of, is positive. You can see that the bigger term is going to be positive. So those are patterns to recognize when doing these problems. So again, if the middle term is negative, then we know the bigger number is negative. If the middle term is positive, then the bigger number is positive, okay? Now these patterns mostly show up when the value of a equals 1, which in all of these problems a does equal 1. You do tend to see these patterns even when a does not equal 1. We will be talking about how to factor the problems when a is not equal to 1 in a later video. So if you like this video, comment down below what you liked about it, hit like and subscribe to my channel, and good luck with your practice.